Welcome everybody to the Culture Shop Podcast. This is your boy Pat Bayless, and I'm in the building with my co-host Czar.
Hi.
And today we got two people returning. My guy, Pastor Hutch is in the building.
Oh my God, with the Hutchins.
Come on. That's my guy.
Yo.
And Monty's in the building. How are you? How you guys doing?
Good,
Very
good,
good.
good.
I'm just so happy to have y'all back. We're doing a 2-part episode. It's called God Paying Our Benefits. I had changed it because going back, just to give people a little insight, I think I sent it to you guys. It was glory. And what I was learning and constantly trying to learn is that what do they say? All glory to God.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was saying our glory, I was told by somebody, all glory to God. So I changed it. So we're doing benefits. But how you guys doing first? Everybody good? Everybody good? Czar, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Pat?
I'm great. I'm a little tired, but I'm good. Gotta muster up this energy. All right, guys. So I really want to get into this. A big thing that I feel like a lot of the world is going through is the heart from the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Going back, I'm sure in the Bible, a lot of people had that where they had this pure heart and the mind was corrupt. I would love for you guys just to shine light on that. If you guys do have anything from the Bible where anybody in the Bible went through that constant struggle of being tucked.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with you, Pastor.
Oh, hey, I was
Come on.
gonna start with today's. Well, I'll actually reverse it more than you had good thoughts but a bad heart.
Okay.
Because sometimes we can think to do something right, but it's our wants and our desires. It's actually the heart that really was driving us.
Mm-hmm.
We are driven by our wants. That's what's really driving us. And no matter how thoughtful we are or intellectually sound we are, it's our hearts that really drives our desires. Like we chase our desires. And so it is, I think you did send that question about rerouting the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's more retraining the heart. That our heart, the things that we love, the things that we desires, those things need to be retrained because they are driving our movements. Wherever, you heard the home is where the heart is.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the heart desires, that's what we chase. No matter how thoughtful and no matter how bad it is, we can think this is terrible, but yet we find ourselves doing that. And so I would kind of reverse it. No matter how thoughtful we are, if our hearts ain't right, then we will go wherever our heart leads us.
Right. And Monty, I would say, right, God looks at your heart
Mm-hmm.
before anything else, right? Because, I mean, let's just be honest. A lot of us are born with good hearts, and we go through these cycles or meet people, and our brain starts to become, you know what I'm saying, starting to become corrupted. You're starting to like you said, starting to like this fleshy lifestyle, but we still have that good heart. But it's starting to almost. What would you say pouring in? Would you guys say pouring in, Monty? Would you say pouring into, like, your head is pouring into your heart in that way? Because, or do you just believe that, like he said, you could just retrain everything?
I feel like the heart and the mind are two separate entities.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, and it's funny that we're talking about the heart because all week, people have been coming up to me like, I love your heart. I love your heart. And I just find that so crazy because we're talking about the mind, right? And my mind don't feel like I love my heart right now. My mind isn't in a good place right now. So the fact that, people are coming up to me and saying I love your heart, what is it that God sees about my heart that people are saying I love your heart? So I feel like this whole podcast is going to be a learning experience for me because what is it about the heart that God keeps pointing to? Why does he keep talking about the heart? So I don't have an answer. I want to learn more about the heart.
Zari, do you feel like you're struggling with that as well, where your head isn't really matching in that way? Like you're in that struggle of fighting flesh and knowing what you kind of, I would say, been brought up, right? Your family was a church background, right?
Right.
So kind of been brought up to know. Do you ever go through that, and are you going through that currently?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all go through knowing right from wrong, because that's what growing up in church is teaching you right from wrong. I grew up in a Seventh-day Adventist church where we had an extra sort of structure, and I value that. But it's so, oh my goodness, when we talk about it, because it's like, we mentioned the Bible right away, but when I read the Bible, all I can see is like, sometimes, but I mostly notice when God's coming down and he's like giving clear instructions. You're giving clear instructions, okay? But then I was like listening, or I don't know where this week something happened, and I was hearing that it's not that God's not giving you the instructions, it's that you're not listening. But honestly, if you want to talk about the Bible, he was telling you straight up, and you could, in the Bible more so, you could see that he's telling you what it is and they're just not following it. I feel like nowadays, because of the world and so many distractions and stuff like that, it's kind of hard to hear. But then I also know that's my heart. Yeah. So that really hurt a little bit when you said it. But yeah, makes sense. Yeah, definitely struggling with it. Always.
Yeah, I think for me, I still struggle with it. I know growing up, like heart wise, I always wanted the best. I always thought, the cliche. I'm gonna marry my high school sweetheart. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Yeah. And then my mind, saw other things. If I'm being honest, my mind saw other things. I enjoyed other things that. I mean, if you know me, if anybody's close to me knows me, to know where I'm at now, they'd be like, they don't even make sense. Because I just enjoyed doing certain things and being a certain way and living a certain lifestyle, like, and just not really caring. Yeah. But I always felt like my heart was good. I always like cared to do stuff for people. But then when I really looked back at it, I was like, it wasn't making sense to me back then. Because I'm like, how do I have a good heart, but I'm cheating on this person? How do I have a good heart, but I'm treating this person like that? And it was hard for me. Even now, I'm struggling with trying to do better. I was telling her, not cursing. Yeah, it's one of my hardest things to try to get right.
Same.
I love women too. I'm be honest. I love women too. It's like being around women and seeing beautiful women and talking to beautiful women. And it's like, at one point I had an ego and I had like this, you know what I'm saying? It was like, so I still struggle with that. So everybody sitting up here talking about it, I could completely agree with you guys. I still struggle mightily sometimes. And I'm in my head trying to figure that out and filter that every day. Yeah. And I know praying, I've started to pray more. And I remember on the episode you was on, you talked about praying. Sometimes it doesn't have to be a long prayer. No. It could be something that you just say quickly. Yeah. And that's that. So I've taken that of what the knowledge you gave me and also ran with that. And it's giving me more clarity, made me feel better in moments. I want to get into the soul and the spirit. It's two different things. Yeah. Would anybody like to break that down?
Not to jump, but I think that's worth us spending probably a little bit more time on this. We know better, but yet our heart says that disconnect. I know better. I know what I should. I know I want to stop cursing. Yet the heart, still in our heart, we find ourselves doing what we know we shouldn't do. And I think that's what you brought up, this disconnect. And that's why I say it's the heart that drives more than what you know. That you'll always do what the heart desire more than what you know. And so what we have to do is focus in on our desires, our habits. That's why I said the heart needs to be retrained, because it's developed this discipline that we have to give our heart. I believe most people say it's the enemies or those things that are going to be their downfall, the haters. I don't believe that. I believe it's the things we undisciplinedly love. Those things will tear us apart. The things that we attach ourselves to that we should not love. those are the demise of humanity. That's the demise, that we love these things and we shouldn't. And we know we shouldn't, but yet we keep doing it. That's why I believe it's the heart that really deserves more time than it gets, because I think we could think our way through things. And oftentimes it's not we feel our way and long our way through, because we could know a lot of things, what not to do, yet we find ourselves still doing those. And we all can see that. Like, I know I shouldn't do this, but yet I find myself doing it and then going through that moment of shame and saying, why am I here again?
Mm-hmm.
I know I went through, I rehearsed it. I should not do this. And then I go through the whole shame, the walk of shame, where you're like, oh my God, I'm back here again, talking to myself. I know I shouldn't do this, and yet I find myself doing it. And I think it was Apostle Paul that says, I know to do good, but evil presents itself because my heart, something is up. And that's why God is always, he's been chasing the heart more than your mind. God is chasing the heart of humanity.
What about those times in the Bible where, I think I was somewhere in Samuel, because I'm reading it now, when God would like come and change your heart? So I don't want the easy way out. Yeah. I know he wants me to do the work. Yeah. But like, there were times when, so like, all right, it's not going to happen for me, but so how do I retrain my heart now? Okay. So this is, I'd like, please don't look at me all the answers. I never want to present. No, right. I don't want to present myself as the person with all the answers. Please, that's too much weight, and I don't. I know, and I don't want to give all that to you, but give us some tools.
I Help think us. Just like any recovery, you break a leg, and then you go to the doctor for recovery. You got to relearn to walk, and I think what makes it difficult for us, that those times when we do mess up, we don't give ourselves grace. We don't give ourselves grace that we're still in recovery mode. You know what I mean? Like when God breaks our heart, when God breaks us, and now he is retraining our heart, that we get on ourselves. Like, just think of yourself as you break your leg and you go to the therapist, and this is the first week of therapy. You're not going to walk properly that first week. But we think, just because we say prayers and, change my heart, it's going to be overnight. And it's not. I think we got to give ourselves more grace in recovery.
That's true. But they say repent and turn from your wicked ways.
Correct.
That's supposed to be immediate, isn't it?
The turn is
because
immediate.
Because if you hold on to it or you try to do it half-heartedly, you're not really doing it.
But then here's the thing: what happens when you turn, understand you're going to fall again. And that repentance still worked. It's still, because it's a sincere gesture toward God that sees the heart. And I think what happens, why people give up on recovery, is because you believe it's not working.
I want it to happen in an instant. I want to be better, like now.
Okay, so how can you retrain a heart that has taken 30, 20, no, you're 16 years old. You've been thinking that way for 16 years.
Absolutely.
How can that heart change in one day with the habits you have obtained in 16 years?
Because I'm like, ugh.
Right. And that's the difficulty. Right. Is people that I talk to that comes in for counseling, it's this mode, this area where they say, it's not working. And I got to remind them that the heart that you have has 16 years of experience of doing what it wants. And it's not going to change overnight. So you have to give yourself grace, because God is giving you grace. You know what I mean? And I think in those, now we could get into all the different things, people you're with, what you're exposed to.
Yes.
Worship changes the heart.
Right.
Worship, when you worship God, it changes your heart. Because it does expose prayer. Prayer exposes the heart to our desires. And that's why a lot of people don't like to pray either, because you are now coming face to face with all the issues that you want to deal with. And some people rather avoid that than to pray. But I said too much.
No, you're perfect. Not to get too personal in your own life, but what are like some daily things you struggle? Because I'm not gonna lie, like when you came on for I think it was the first ever episode, you had like that aura. You still do, but you had that aura of like, man, you could tell like God's really touched her, right? what's the daily thing that you would say you struggle with, or is it multiple things that you struggle with, even with your faith now? Kind of like what he's saying. Like, what have you had to untrain your brain, untrain your heart with, since you've been a certain way for so long?
I feel like what changed like my aura is like getting to know God a little deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I'm having that Paul moment, like, oh, wretched man that I am.
Yeah.
Because now I see myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's just the fact that I see myself, and it just makes my heart weary. Like, yeah, I don't, and then like everything that's going on in the world, like it's just a lot.
Do you carry that weight of just the world, what happens in the world, besides personal stuff? Do you carry the weight of what you see that goes on in the world?
Oh,
on
definitely. You? I feel like that's something that
Yeah.
God like is like working on me, because I feel like I have like a Jesus complex. Like I feel like I have to save everyone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the weight of that, just feeling like, because there's a lot of people around me that don't believe. And I don't have a church community. I was just in Bible study this morning, that I just started, like with a group of girls, and they were just saying how, like, if you don't have that community,
Yeah.
it could be a big weight.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like, I feel like every day, like I'm trying so hard to like be that image of Christ for other people, that it was just way too much for me, because I'm still learning myself. So just the weight of that, and just after realizing that I can't do it myself, I was self-sabotaging. Like, I feel like I was running from God. I was telling the girls in Bible study, I'm like, the way that I pray now, it's like, hey, God, how are you? Okay, bye. Because I don't want him to, like I said, expose that there's something wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get like a visual in a certain way. So it to you, it almost sounds like, because you don't have that community, you are doing what's right by God, but it's almost like they're throwing stones at you.
It just feels
would I
like,
say that? Would you say that? Excuse me?
No, it just feels like just the times that we're in. We're in like really trying times, and it just, not that things are hopeless. Like, I have faith, but they just seem like it just seems really close. You
And
know
you're
what I'm
not
saying?
enough. You're not enough
and
to
it's
fix.
just like, and you go on Instagram, and every comment is like, why are you not talking about Palestine? Why are you not talking about Rafa? And I just, it's a big thing that people should be talking about. But when you constantly see these bodies and children, it's overwhelming. And especially with people that don't believe in God, because they're like, where's your God?
Correct. Yeah.
With all these children, and this is supposed to be Israel. You know what I'm saying? And all these, so it's like, it's just a lot, and I just felt like so much responsibility on me. So I feel like I'm purposely dimming my light, because I'm just like, just look to Jesus yourself sometimes. Like, that's just how I feel, even though it's like a harsh thing to say. But my heart just feels weary. So I find it ironic that this whole week people are like, I love your heart. Like, my son started saying it first, Mommy, I love your heart. And I'm just like, okay, oh, thank you. Like, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
And then the girls at Bible study this morning, they're like, Imani, like, I really love your heart. And I'm like, what do you love about my heart being weary right now?
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, I'm learning more about you. I'm getting deeper in relationship with you, and now I feel weary. So what's going on? So, yeah, that's the difference between now and then. But it's a good thing that it's being recorded, because that's the way that the Christ walk is. It's not always rainbows and everybody's faith-filled. Like, it could be a weary walk, carrying your cross every day.
Lonely.
Do you feel that in the community that you're pastoring in?
Absolutely.
Do you feel that constant?
There are moments when I think I did say the last time I was here, where people don't know my profession because of the demand for answers, and sometimes not having. I've got to the space where I am comfortable in saying I don't know. I really don't. I don't have all the answers. I really didn't want to have all the answers, because I don't want anyone. But it's lonely. It is lonely when you see what's going on, and then people ask you, okay, where is this God that you serve in the midst of all this chaos and violence? And this is supposed to be a God of love. And why isn't he showing up for, the most vulnerable people? And so it's you question, are you doing enough? I get that. Are you doing enough with what you have? Can you do more? And then you do start eternally beating yourself up, and it makes you do the opposite. Instead of giving more, you give less because you're like, I'm just tired. That burnout and exhaustion is so common that it's coming from a good place. Now, it's a good place because I want to do more, but I don't know how to.
You're
I can do.
fatiguing in a way, right?
Self-sabotage.
Mhm.
Like, and then outside, everyone else will see you doing an amazing job. You're doing great, and you have a great heart. You mean well, but internally, it's, I'm not doing enough, especially in this overwhelming of constant, like, bad and negative. And I think I was telling you, like, the last one, being a light in the community. It's like, it's overwhelming at times, but that's what lights do. Even in the darkest room, sometimes these lights are the brightest in the darkest.
And God kind of gave you that light in that way to then push it forward. And
here's the thing: what you see, even if you're saying that, Pat, that's what we know,
right?
But our hearts tell us something completely different.
Right. That, I don't know. It's almost in that way too of like I want to say a lot of Americans, but Americans in general, they see what's going on,
Mhm.
in the countries in Israel. And they post it and stuff like that, but you also see the people that kind of want to act like they don't know what's going on.
Mhm.
So like where you guys are feeling, I'm not doing enough. Some
Right.
people are just like, I'm staying away from it.
Yeah.
Because it ain't happening at home.
Right. But even international, that's just war. But I'm even talking about like homelessness.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Poverty.
Right.
Oh my
All
goodness.
these things,
Mhm.
besides, just across my local community,
Mhm.
there are so much different things: drugs and prostitution and child abuse and all these different things outside of just the war that's happening overseas.
Just every day.
It's every day. It's constant, especially in our communities where there's so much going on, and you feel like, oh my God, what next? Like, I can't handle this. I'm still struggling navigating this, and then you just add international stuff on top of it, which is overwhelming. It is.
Is there any story in the Bible where it's like that, where some a person feels like that, where they're overwhelmed and they're trying to talk to God? Is there
Elijah?
I was thinking of Jonah when he was running.
He ran, yeah.
Because God told him to go speak to a certain group of individuals that, where he was from, they didn't mess with them.
Mm-hmm.
And he was scared, so he ran.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like the same thing, like Jesus tells us to be the light of the world,
Yeah.
right? How can you be the light of the world when like the world is so dark
Yeah.
right now? And just everyday life, like you're saying, like not even just war. Like I work in a nursing home, and that, I don't know, it's just like now I'm thinking and visualizing like the moments of like the weariness where it just like hit my heart, like, oh man.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was working, I'm a nurse in a nursing home, and just seeing these like old, and I work for veterans, so just seeing like these old veterans, like,
Yeah.
and what they did for the country, and like how sick they are, they can't move, or they're dealing with an illness that they got from the war. It's just like, it hurts seeing
Yeah.
people like that, because what if that was your
Yep.
family? So
Yeah.
it's that constant, like, okay, God, like I'm over this now, like this is ghetto.
Enough.
Yeah, like
This is
please.
ghetto.
This is ghetto.
This is
Yeah.
straight
Enough.
ghetto.
Yeah.
Wow. Nah. It's heavy. Like
It
when
is.
y'all talking about it, it's heavy because I don't know. You guys, and that's why I think, I don't know how Zaria feels on this, but I know I feel after you guys talk about stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like, damn, I'm really not doing enough. If I'm being honest, that's
Yeah.
how I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm really not doing enough. I'm looking at stuff like my everyday
Mm-hmm.
life. I try to, especially now, like with my grandparents, like I
Mhm.
try to do right by them. But when you guys bring up stuff like that, like homelessness and stuff like that, it really just makes you see the even bigger picture than what
Yeah.
you're already trying to get right just within your family
Yeah.
or your daily,
Yeah.
on go. I do want to get into your soul and your spirit, because they are two different things. I don't know who wants to take this lead on this. in kind of describing.
Not me.
Sorry, do you want to?
What's the question, Pat?
It's not really. Well, the question is really describing it,
Mm-hmm.
the soul and your spirit, and really what takes from each.
I don't have enough insight. They're different things, but they're one and the same. They affect each other. So I really don't even know.
So I did take notes. I just wanted to kind of give it
Okay.
the floor, but I did take notes because I really didn't know. Like, I knew the basics.
Yeah.
But the notes I took is that the soul is made up of your will,
Mm-hmm.
your emotion, and your mind.
Mm-hmm.
The spirit is eternal.
Mm-hmm.
So those were just basic notes that I took.
Mm-hmm.
When I thought of my soul, I thought of your will and your emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like we are emotional beings, right? Like everything, a lot of things we do is just based off emotion. And I think like people going to therapy is just try to reel in anger
from their soul.
Yes, exactly. So talking about that, I could just talk from personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's stuff that I had to go to therapy for. Is just anger on a regular.
Mm-hmm.
Getting mad at this. I wouldn't say silly stuff, but the silly things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's dragging into stuff like that, and it's taking you away from God. It's taking you away from trying to be obedient in the right way. What has been like the toughest thing that weighs on your spirit, would you say?
For me, personal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not. I'm thinking this through. Understanding potential, my potential, and feeling that I'm falling short of that, of not living out who God wants me to be, in the way that He wants. Sometimes being very complacent, procrastinating, when there are things I should do, getting far too comfortable, settling a lot. I could keep going on and on. I think knowing the potential or the call, we say calling on my life, and then not being faithful to execute that to the way I know I can.
Right.
That sometimes I let myself down, knowing I can do more. And that's a weariness that takes on the soul level, that no matter how much rest you get, I normally say rest versus sleep, but you still wake up tired because there's that level of frustration or this clock ticking that I didn't do enough yesterday. Like I really took a shortcut yesterday and not doing what I'm supposed to do, because we all have this in our minds where we're supposed to be. Like I think we've been doing it since we was kids. 5 years. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Where do you see yourself 10 years from now? And then now we are now 5 or 10 years later, and we see, man, some of the stuff that I said I was going to accomplish, I have not done it yet.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and so that, I think, on a spirit level, sometimes can definitely get me weary and tired.
Does God's timing kind of help you with that? Like when you do get weary like that, do you tell yourself like, God, it's on your time, or does it, or is it that fight?
Here's this, I can give myself grace, and I said give myself grace, and know that God time is not my time, but it still doesn't stop me and my brain from really beating myself up.
Right.
It really doesn't, because instead of thinking about where I should be, I think about all the time I wasted. How much time I wasted in people doing things that I know I shouldn't, that I knew wasn't good for me, that was wasting valuable time. Now I got a lot of time left. I'm not, but still, it doesn't take away from how I can sometimes torture my own self, knowing that I wasted a lot of times when I knew I shouldn't have.
That was well put. That really was well put, because I try to look at the glass half full.
Yeah.
In a lot of things, and try not to. But you put that on point. I mean,
coming from a man of God that's preaching how could you feel like you should be doing more? Like, I'm not doing anything to bring anyone to Christ.
That's not true.
So But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
like, I'm not doing anything
Right.
grace. So
Mhm.
like, even hearing you say that, it's making me beat myself up more.
Oh my
And
God.
it's the same thing that you're talking about. This is crazy. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard because like
I feel like
it's written, it's plain, and it's like, I don't know. I guess I'm making things harder for myself. What were you gonna say?
I don't mean to cut you off, Star, because I didn't want to lose my train of thought. But like, as you're speaking, like, and then you're speaking too, and then I'm thinking like about what you're saying. And you're saying that you feel that way, and then you're looking at him like, how could he feel that way? And you're a pastor, and I'm thinking like, okay, I'm feeling this way, but like, what just keeps coming to my mind, and excuse me if I'm wrong, Pastor.
Yeah.
Is pride.
Yeah.
I think we're just prideful.
Yeah.
Because we keep saying I could do better. I could do this. I could do that.
Mhm.
But I think the moral of the entire story of the Bible is that he just wants us.
Yeah.
So that's what I feel like we should lean into, is the fact that he doesn't want us to do more for him. Because when Jesus got his disciples, he said, just follow me.
Yeah.
He didn't say, okay, but what did you
And
do
they
today?
followed him though.
You know what I mean? But
They followed him.
they followed him, but it's not like when they went on their walk, he was like, okay, how many people did you bring in? Okay, that's a terrible number. Like they just were with
doing
him.
certain things though. That's
were
always
with
my
him.
problem. So pride could come into it, but
Mhm.
then it's also like, you know what you're supposed to be doing and you're not doing it. So pride would be continuing to not guilt myself, you know, that to me, in my opinion. So it's 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. Either way, it sucks, because I could say I grew up in church all I want. Why did I stray?
Mm-hmm.
If I knew right from wrong from the beginning,
Yeah.
I always knew right from wrong. Still did what I wanted to do. So it's like, and that's what I'm saying. God came down and he said, this.
And you still, yeah.
But for me, it's like that doesn't always happen. So you can know things all you want.
Yeah.
But life still happens first. Like,
But
I don't know.
in ways, I agree. I think it is this me. I'm not strong enough.
Yeah.
I'm not strong enough. And that's supposed to push me to rely on God more. That's my reliance, that I should know that I can't do more than I'm just not capable of doing. It's impossible. That's God thing. But I think there are things where I know I can do where I'm not. Like I'm capable of doing that I'm not doing. And I think that's where we're, like I've never, this savior complex, I went through that, but I know I can't. There's certain things, I know my boundaries of my capabilities. But then knowing my capabilities, I know for a fact there are some things that I'm just not doing, that I allow myself to procrastinate. Right. If there's any person that's a thing, me. Comfort. I think that's all of our probably issues. Well, let me not say all of ours. Let me speak for me. Let me speak for me. Let me not do that, because I always have a tendency to just place myself for comfort. I think that's my thing, where I settle and get way too comfortable and I procrastinate when I'm supposed to be doing more. Well, not even doing more. Supposed to be doing. Let me just use that instead of seeing more. What I'm supposed to be doing, I procrastinate. And so I think that's what I'm, on the soul level, spirit level, I attack myself.
But now, since we're intertwining the soul, like going back to what Zara was saying, and like just me relating to that, like going back to things that I know that I shouldn't be going back to, I feel like there's a root to that. There's a reason why that's why I don't feel like, okay, like I should be doing. Okay, I do feel like I should be doing more, but when I take an outside look at myself, I'm like, okay, no, there's something going on here with her. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why this person keeps going to this. Like, get to the root of why you're going back to whatever the thing is, because it's not the thing or the fact that you're doing the thing. It's why are you doing the thing? How do you feel? Are you lonely? Are you hurt? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is that? And
back to the heart.
Yeah, back to the heart. the heart, the soul, the spirit.
Yeah, we back to the that little smile. I like it.
Because
That. Yeah. Go ahead.
and I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
But if I were to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
when I be sinning, there's like no reason to sin.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy,
No,
but
no,
at the
no,
end of the day,
yeah.
there's no reason
Yeah.
to sin.
Yeah.
Like, I be doing certain stuff, and I'm like, I know God right here with me right now.
Yeah.
So this is crazy.
And you still do it.
What is that?
Yes. I
What
agree.
even is that? That's crazy.
That's heart. That it's. I think people, that little muscle in your chest. I mean, it's bigger than. I mean, when we say heart, it's of course not just the physical heart. It's just. I don't think people realize how strong their desires are. Like how it takes. I don't care how smart you are. That's why some smart people do some really dumb things.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand how undisciplined our heart is if we allow it. And the more we think we can control it, that's the ego. That we can think we can control the desires of our heart, and we cannot. If we allow our hearts to keep pushing us towards things, it's so destructive.
What about vulnerability?
Mm-hmm.
What about as far as that within the heart? Because I feel like we all go through things in life, right? And I'll just use maybe I don't know. I can't personally speak on certain things, but people all go through things in life, and sometimes our heart becomes vulnerable, or we become so used to a certain way of living, certain, like you were saying, people being around people, that, like you said, is comfort. And at the same time, I say maybe I was just with the love, quote unquote, the love of my life, and now I'm hurt, and my heart is vulnerable to the next.
Conditioned. Our heart has been conditioned to love wrong. That we can be in relationships where our heart has been conditioned to love wrong, and now we can spread that wrong way of loving to all different relationships. We can carry it from different ways. Abuse. That's another thing. Our heart's been conditioned to love the wrong way, where we think that this is the right way of loving. And that's why I said we have to retrain our heart, because we can indeed condition our hearts to love wrong and love the wrong things, love the wrong way. And it's for us to be retrained. And that's 1 Corinthians 13, that it says love is patient, love is kind. It goes through all this, what love is, teaching you what love is not. That's how I always look at how I read the Bible is when the Bible tells me what love something is, it's also telling me what it's not. And so we can indeed being trained, even by our parents, to love the wrong way. And it's for us now to, when we get old, therapy, how we love things. Why do I keep going back to this? These habits that I shouldn't love this, but yet I find myself going back to it. And I hate it so much. But I keep doing it.
And then, like what Zara saying too, like some things you don't have to sin. Like you just know you about to do something that
I'm making plans for it. Right
planning.
now.
Planning.
What we call it though?
Week before, I'm gonna be.
Man.
I know he's not good, or she ain't good for me. A week before, I'm planning to be there, knowing after I leave, I'm gonna be like, why did I go?
Even when we entertain certain things,
We
knowing
know
that, because then when you week before, why are we even entertaining that?
Yeah.
How do we separate the word addiction too in that? Like, I don't know how to interpret that, because like addiction to being addicted to a person. I don't. It depends on the sin, but I know I struggle with certain addictions. I'm like, wow, it took me a while to really be like, you know what, I don't need to be doing this, and I'm clearly just like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. Like Zara said, like, and I'm seeing that in the things that I'm dealing with is like, it's an addiction.
Yeah.
At this point, it's like
cravings.
something. Yeah, like why am I craving this when I don't need to crave it?
Yeah.
And that's another one of my struggles, like trying to filter out what I can just pray on and really work on, and then what can I lean on somebody else for to help me with? Like person wise, example therapy.
Well, I had a great mentor that once in school that he said every time I'm going through those conversations, if I'm going to be honest, like when you talk about journaling, that when you're going to be honest, when you're going through those, I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm craving it. Like before I go to his house, but you have that internal debate. Why are you going there? You shouldn't go there. You have that internal conversation with yourself before you're about to do something. Because before we're about to do something, there is that conversation that happens, whether in the car or at home. And what he told me one time was to document that.
For what? Wait, how? How and for what?
Okay, let's for instance, he's no good, but you're going to his house because it's 4:00 in the morning. But on your way on your way there is that little voice telling you, you shouldn't be doing that.
I got this feeling before the club. I got this feeling before I pour a drink. I got this feeling
so
before.
What he told me was document it.
I'll be walking around with a pen all day. Let me try it.
Even if it's a mental note.
Right.
If you don't have time to be like, let me write this down. But I think what he wanted me to remember that even in those moments, your heart is in a good place.
Ooh.
Because
giving yourself grace.
Because you have your spirit is still speaking to you in that moment, and that moment that voice stops, that's when you worry. Make sense? So I think the grace that comes from that is that, you see that as a negative, as I still do it. He sees it as that the spirit is still convicting you and working because it's still telling you, don't do this. And it still speaks to you. The moment that voice of conviction stops, that's when you worry, where you don't care anymore. You're just there. I'm there.
Well, that's the thing I want to ask y'all. Do y'all think that voice can disappear and come back?
Depending on how deep you're going, you continue to ignore it, it's gonna just fade. Yeah. I've had that experience. I have Snapchat pictures of my experience where that voice went out, and you could tell that voice went out. Yeah. So,
and you blank out,
which makes me wonder. I know you don't got all the answers, but can we delay God's process then? Because that's what I worry about when I'm doing certain things and I know, and then I see the light go in and out every day. So that's what gets me tight, because it's like I be worshiping all week. As soon as I put a reggae mix on, it's a wrap for everything I was worshiping. Yeah. Not necessarily a wrap for everything, but it's like it takes me back now. Now I feel like I'm always starting over because I know that why am I separating myself from that if that's what it is? Why am I even going back to the other things? And it's simple stuff like music, things that we don't even recognize that we're doing every day, but switching the music changes me. Yeah, so it's like,
I'm going to hold that note. Just hold that note for a second. I don't want to ask something. Yeah, man.
Do you think that the grace mindset, like, y'all keep saying giving yourself grace, like, and then you have a good heart even when you're going to do wrong things. Do you think that mindset of grace can be abused, though?
A crutch.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Grace be.
It's in the Bible. Do you keep sinning knowing that grace abounds? Meaning, do you keep doing what you want to do knowing that grace is out there? And then Paul says, God forbid. I hope you don't do it. Keep doing it just because you could get away with it.
Right.
That's what should we continue in sin knowing that grace abounds, that grace is everywhere? God forbid. I hope you don't. But knowing still that grace abounds does provide a level of comfort to you and saying, you know what, God, I'm sorry. Yeah. And day by day, we just hope the next day is better than the next day, better than the
and in a way
next day.
And I don't mean to be the dark cloud in the room, but in a way, you can delay God's process.
You absolutely can.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They were in the Israelites for 40 years.
40 years,
short trip.
Man, and they was right where they were supposed to be.
Yes,
they didn't even know.
They was across from it because of comfort.
Now.
Because of we end up preaching on that we are conditioned for comfort. People always say, "Oh, we got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable." To me, that's a lie. Because even in uncomfortable things, we can get very comfortable, and that uncomfortability becomes comfortable for us. So our bodies are conditioned for comfort.
It's a bar.
It is.
Dog, I want to just go back to the music thing because I just had this conversation today.
Mm-hmm.
And I got some. I felt like it was some real knowledge because I was telling this person that, you know, I struggle with that. Like I'm an R&B person, so you know R&B is we making love to the sun come up, we doing this X Y Z, what you doing with, you know. So that's my music. I love that music. It's hard for me, like she says, like I'll listen to transformation worship in the morning. And then in the afternoon, listening to in the afternoon, I'm listening to some C Breezy or some Bryson Tiller or something, and I'm completely off. But what she said to me was, and it really made me feel better. She's like, for some time while you're really transforming into Christ and everything, like you may have to put that down. But she said she loves music too, and she could still listen. She loves music in general. She's like, she could still listen to some of the old music, but with God's spirit, knowing that what she's listening to can affect her the way that, let's just be honest, music does stuff to people, right? And it affects you in a certain way. So what she was explaining to me was that music to her now, it doesn't affect her in that way that it used to. Right. So she's like, I'm fully committed. She was like, back then, it took me a while, but she's like, now I'm fully committed to God, and I can still hear an R&B song and be fine. And it made me feel good. I'm not gonna lie, because when she said it and she broke it down like that,
our music is super dirty now, though.
I know
it's like
it is
dirtier than what they thought was dirty. Our music is nasty.
Yeah. I mean,
so like that's what gets me. Like, I could talk about a slow jam back in the day, but when I'm getting all the visuals in one song,
slow jams was kind of nasty back then too.
But your level of maturity in your transformation. She's transformed more mature. That she can, but then you have to be honest with yourself too. You know, it's just somebody's an alcoholic should not walk in a bar.
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean? Right. You should not. But at the level of maturity that you recover to the point where you can walk in those things,
or be around people.
You could be around those things, but you have to be honest with yourself in your development too, in your transformation process. That's the thing. Like if you know you can't manage R&B because I mean we know you sing that the spirit of a song, right? That each song, the intention of the writer, we take in. Every song we listen, and our gates, we call it our ear gates, letting in the spirit of the song. And it is drawing up that imagery in our head. Yes. You know, so if you're not at that place maturity-wise in your development and your transformation process, you got to be mature enough to say, I'm going to leave this alone. Right. And the community that's with you too. Like it's not by, see, that thing is not by yourself. It's like the community of people around you to say, I'm not going to play this because Pat, I know you are not ready for this.
Yeah,
I would have to talk to no one in the world. At the end of the day, I'd have to be by myself. So that also sucks. But I'll keep.
But transformation for me, I know that's in it. It's a community thing too. It's not a alone, separate thing. It's that you have to have friends around you that respect you. That you have created new boundaries for yourself. Because if you don't establish that, then they're going to just be like, no, Pat, drink this. No, Pat, listen to this.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're going to be like, well, all right.
Yeah, exactly. I'm here. Yeah. The story I was just talking about, I don't know that story. The Israelites. Tell me about that. Where?
Yeah, so Moses freed them.
Yeah.
They were on a journey. Help me out here.
Yeah.
They were on a journey and basically God was providing for them. Bread was coming from the sky. Like they had it. And
bread was coming from the sky.
Bread was coming from the sky.
Manna.
Yeah. Manna. Right?
To just give you a visual, it was actually happening.
So it's just like, you know, they're in the wilderness and I guess God wasn't giving them the answers that they wanted. Like we kind of deal with on a day-to-day basis. And basically they were stuck there for 40 years instead of going to the promised land
it should have
that
been
they were supposed to go to.
A 3-day journey.
Oh, stop. Because 40 years from 3 days?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So they, not to cut you.
No, go ahead.
They freed from Egypt, right? And so God promised them that they're going to have land of their own. And so what should have been only a 3-day journey turned into 40 years because when spies went in to see the promised land, they saw giants. They saw all these obstacles and they discounted the power of God. And so God said, because you are not taking my strength and what I provided for you, this is your promise.
Right.
They preferred to go back to Egypt to be slaves. And so God said, okay, fine. That's what you want. You're comfortable here in this wilderness? Stay 40 years.
That's what we do.
And a generation died out.
So now.
And so a generation had to die out with that mindset. Because God teaching us that kind of mindset, you can't retrain or you can't, rehab. It has to die. And the children was able to inherit the promise because their parents did not believe.
That's incredible. And that really does relate to now.
Absolutely.
I think that even kind of can be, I don't know if I'm right by saying this, but even like generational curse. Am I right? Because the promise, you're saying somebody is going through something because the obstacle is hard.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes like our families can pass that on to us.
You can pass your traumas to and my rule is stop handing down your traumas to your children. They can inherit your trauma. They had nothing to do with it.
Scariest thing in the world.
I mean, if we think about it, what's going on in Israel is brothers. That's Palestine. Those are brothers, but that's inherited hate from generations. That's how difficult and how dangerous the heart is. That generations later, we can inherit these level of hate that cause children's children to keep fighting.
We pray for all of them out there.
Yeah, definitely.
We really do. I appreciate y'all being a part of part 1. Now I want to start up part 2. Again, I want to say I'm Pat Bayless. I'm with his